What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, we are going over ADA Cardano, as I do believe that there could be growth relatively soon around the future. And although ADA is kind of like the joke coin at this point where a lot of people just make loads of jokes about it, I definitely think it would not be wise to ignore some of the developments that are happening over there. And going forward, I think that if this thing does continue to move how it will, we definitely could see some growth rather sooner than later. Now, I'm going to start off this video by talking about the reason we've been seeing this fall for a few minutes. Then I'm going to go into what we are seeing at the moment and how I think it can affect the future of ADA. And I actually do have a bit of a short-term trade that I am planning right now over the next few days. So I'm going to share that with you all also. So first and foremost, kind of talking about why we've been seeing what we have been seeing. Well, the reason we've been seeing this fall, in my opinion, has been pretty much because of two main catalysts. Overhyping and underperforming is one, and kind of staying behind the curve is the second one. And I think these are the two main reasons why we've been seeing pretty much consistent depth for about 4 or 5 months now. Now, the first one, when I say overhyping and underperforming, I'm not saying that they're making up things, saying they're going to do one thing and doing another. But what I'm saying is that they are aware of some of the obstacles and barriers that are going to present themselves. And I feel like they do they have a tendency to overhype things and say that all of this is what's going to happen in the short term, when realistically it's going to take a little bit longer than they're saying. But the excitement that they're causing always causes these great movements. But whenever it gets a little bit disappointing because it does take a little bit longer, well, then we start to see these downtrends. And I mean, it has a history. It's kind of what's always happened with ADA here, and historically in the past as well. Now, is that a terrible thing? No, it's not a terrible thing. But I definitely do think that it will continue to do things of this nature until they are capable of producing a little bit quicker as they do continue to develop and expand. Now, what do I mean by underperforming? Well, underperforming, I mean that in the sense that, for example, when smart contracts launched, what we saw was them saying this is going to be the beginning of everything. This is going to be when we start to see thousands of applications launching on the blockchain. This is when we're going to see Cardano's ecosystem really taking off. And this is going to be, the next few weeks are going to be huge for us as all of these platforms start to launch. And then realistically, all of these developers come out and say, hey, no, this is not easy. This is not an easy, platform blockchain to be able to build on. We are going to need time. We're going to have to figure this out. There are many other obstacles that are going to delay the process. And so for the last 4 or 5 months, as that's been getting figured out, that disappointment has definitely affected them. Now, not only that, though, again, the second point was that they have a tendency to be a little bit behind the curve in terms of excitement of what is going on in the market. For example, when we saw the NFT wave, when we started to see something like Solana capitalize on the NFT wave and see its total value locked and its overall ecosystem just growing substantially because of that wave, ADA Cardano was way behind, right? They were not capable of really taking advantage of it because they were just so behind the curve, because they are more of a slow, steady mover. So although moving slow and moving steady over the long term isn't the worst thing ever, and it's not completely detrimental to a project, it definitely does affect them in a market that is so built around hype, in the sense that they can't necessarily take advantage of that hype until their foundation and fundamentals are established so strong that they can make much quicker adaptations to the ecosystem itself, and that they can provide people with the opportunity to capitalize on that wave, such as NFTs, right? Now, not only that, though, we saw another wave, right? We saw the kind of passive income yield farming thing, the wave that is going on right now, in which we're seeing something like Terra Luna's, total value lock climbing up to $25 billion, growing dramatically, which has caused Luna itself, the price of Luna, as we can see, to grow dramatically, even when the rest of the market isn't doing anything. The crypto companies and the crypto projects that are capable of taking advantage of that wave have done phenomenally, right? We saw something like Phantom, which TVL grew pretty substantially from December to January, go on a massive run before eventually pulling back, right? And the fact that ADA Cardano is not capable of taking advantage of these waves because they have been a little bit behind the curve has definitely affected the price. Now, I think this can be fixed, and I think they are in the process of starting to catch up pretty substantially. Now, the reason that I say that is because we finally started to see the actual genuine launching of platforms on the ecosystem. And as these platforms do start to launch on the ecosystem, we see that the total value lock for ADA starts to grow pretty dramatically, pretty quickly, right? We can see since February, January, we have been on a pretty straight shot to the top side. And whenever you include the amount of governance tokens staked in the protocol, we're sitting right under $300 million in total value locked. Now, again, we saw Terra was at 25 billion, so this is not a lot, but it's a step, it's progress. And the fact that we are seeing pretty exponential growth in the ecosystem at this point, with people starting to take advantage of the perks and of the things that ADA does offer, I think that this is only going to be beneficial to give people more of a reason to be excited about ADA, rather than just a bunch of hype about a bunch of things that realistically aren't going to come to fruition for a long time. Now, what I think that this means for ADA Cardano is that they are going to have the ability to adapt much easier and much faster, okay? Now, what I mean by that is as we do start to see the many different aspects of this ecosystem starting to grow, right? As we can see right now, there are about 517 projects being built on Cardano, many of which include NFT collections, lending, DEXs, auditing and certification, incubators, NFT marketplaces, wallets, DeFi, gaming. As we see these many different aspects of the ecosystem developing and growing, and as we start to see the total value locked in ADA growing as well, I think that it gives ADA the ability to adapt to these new waves and these new moments of excitement to allow it to take advantage of the hype that comes within crypto itself. By not just saying, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and just hype everything up and realistically not be able to perform as well because they are such a slowly developing company. I think that being able to take advantage of whatever the next wave is by having so many aspects of their ecosystem easily and readily deployable, I think that's going to be extremely beneficial, especially in the wave we are in right now. Because realistically, we are still in that passive income wave. Whenever we see these bear markets happen, when crypto starts to underperform and it just starts to get a little ugly, people are going to look for other ways in which they can make money. First, we saw gaming. Gaming was the big one because people realized we can make money in gaming on something like Axie Infinity, even if my Bitcoin holding is dropping 20%. And so as people got excited about gaming, we saw gaming cryptos really start to catch momentum. Now, right now, while that wave is kind of a little bit more dead at this point forward, but I think it has a lot of growth in the future. We see, again, something like Anchor Protocol, which is Terra Luna's main, here we go, let's go right here, there we go, main protocol. And we can see with about $13 billion TVL, we can see that is where the excitement at. It offers 20% yield on just a stable coin. So everyone's like, well, I would much rather be making gains there than trying to hold money into, altcoins that are continuously falling over and over again. And so as we can see, these different waves of things, the cryptos that are most capable of taking advantage of that wave tend to perform the best in any market conditions. And considering the fact that ADA Cardano has such a strong following, it is reaching millions of holders every single month, realistically without even really doing anything at this point. I definitely think that with the strong support that they have, mixed in with the adaptability, mixed in with the growing ecosystem, it could only mean growth eventually for the price. Does it mean now or does it mean later? I don't know, but I definitely do think that it is inevitable. People would be lying to say that ADA is not worth more right now than it was back here. It definitely is. The ecosystem is growing more. We are in the progress now. We're not hoping for progress. We are in the progress now as we are finally starting to see that ecosystem grow. And so considering the fact that that value and the overall value of the project is growing, I just think that that means growth. And that's just kind of my opinion on it. Once we do kind of see the market supporting it, I am under the expectation that growth could be soon to follow. I definitely do envision us maybe even returning back up towards $1.50 at some point within the the next couple months. Okay. Now, I told you guys that I would give you guys a trade, and now that I am starting to get more and more confident on ADA, I am starting to plan these short-term trades, and I am going to be, looking for good buying points whenever I do think that we are seeing strong confirmations. So currently speaking, there's one trade that I am looking at right now, especially as our technicals do start to look a bit better. Now, I'm going to do a video on the technical analysis of ADA very soon, but I wanted to focus more on this video on the fundamentals, but there are many things happening right now, such as this possible bullish cross happening on the weekly MACD, which every single time that it has happened, we have seen 50 to 100% growth from ADA, as well as massive drives of bullish divergence in which we are seeing, let's go zoom out. What you can see here is that the price has been setting, much higher lows than what we saw historically, right? Higher lows, but we are seeing extreme lower lows on the RSI, meaning that it has reset pretty substantially and that we could expect some type of growth once we do establish a macro bottom. So considering the fact that there do seem to be very bullish indicators as well on the ADA charts, mixed in with the growing ecosystem and growing fundamentals, I have been looking for some of these trade setups. And the one that I'm looking at right now is actually the possible establishment of another range of support with the probable breakup back towards the top side of our trend line as it sits around $1. ADA has a tendency to resolve back to $1 anytime it's above or below it, and it's just kind of what it does. And considering the fact that we are finding some support right here around the 78-cent level, I definitely think that pushing back towards $1 is extremely possible if we're capable of breaking this micro level of resistance sitting around 85 cents. So personally speaking, I'm going to be going in, and if we are capable of breaking 85 cents and holding it on a daily chart, and we really start to kind of sit above it a bit, I am going to be starting a short-term position fruition with a breakout target sitting back up to the trend line, in which I will likely take some short-term profits there. But if we do break the trend line, then obviously I will just hold that position. But I definitely think that this little short-term trade here will come to fruition as long as we are above 77 cents. If we fall below 77 cents, do expect us to likely push back down towards the mid to high 60-cent area to set in this new macro low, as we have a tendency to do when we lose these lows. But I am under the belief again that as long as we are above 77 cents, this is the next move back towards the trend line, and I'm going to try to take advantage of it by setting a stop loss on that trade at 77 cents if we do clear 85 cents, and be looking for a possible about 15 to 20% gain, or about 10 to 20% gain here, right? Because we're looking at about about 10 to 15% gainer there, and depending on, of course, when it makes that interaction. So that's my game plan. That's what I'm doing. That's the next short-term trade that I'm looking to take on ADA. I will, of course, let my Patreon members know. Those of you who are in the Patreon, you will be the first ones to know when I do make this purchase, but do stay tuned for the videos on YouTube as well, because I do like to update you guys. Even if it is a little bit more behind, I would still like to let you know when I am making some moves, when I'm making some buys, when I'm making some sales. So overall, that's my take on ADA. That's what I'm seeing, and that's my current way to take advantage of it in the short term. If we break the trend line, and of course, if we say break the trend line and get back above this macro high, I may start to consider more long-term accumulating. But once we start to see the price really catching up in momentum with the growth of the ecosystem, that is when I'd rather do more mass accumulating, even if it is a little bit higher back up towards some of these levels here. So stay tuned for some more ADA content now that we are finally seeing the development and growth that I think is necessary for the price to reflect it. And so definitely do stay tuned for that. But with that said, that's going to be about it for today's video. And of course, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, you can always let me know simply by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And I will see you all next time. Peace.